Hello everybody and welcome back to my crash course channel. Today we're going to talk about our crash course number 2, which is going to focus on the order of operations. Now you may be asking yourself, what is the order of operations? And what the order of operations is it's the way we solve a mathematical expression that has multiple operations in them. And when I say an operation, I mean multiple things to solve in the problem. So we could see a mix of parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, and subtraction all in one problem. We follow the order of operations to show what is the most important or what is the most essential thing to solve in that problem first in order to get us to the correct answer. Let's break down PEMDAS into all of those different operations that we need to follow. Now, a fun way to remember the order of operations and the order in which you're supposed to solve things is the little phrase, "Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally." Now, to break this down, we're going to look at the problem 5 times 4 plus 7 minus 10 minus 2 squared divided by 3. In order to solve this problem the right way, we need to follow the order of operations. Now let's break down what each of these letters mean. The P stands for parentheses, as in the example I've given you in 10 minus 2 squared. The E stands for exponents, which I've given the example here, 2 squared. The M in PEMDAS stands for multiplication, as in 5 times 4. The D stands for division, as in 6 divided by 3. The A stands for addition, as in 20 plus 7. And S stands for subtraction, as in 27 minus 2. Now, you will notice in the examples, I have broken down the problem that I have given you, and I'm actually able to determine that the answer to this problem is 25. But how exactly do I go about getting to this final answer when I have so many operations in play? In the next few slides, we're going to break down how to solve a problem that has multiple operations in it by using this PEMDAS, or using the order of operations. Let's use this problem as an example. I have 4 plus 3 squared times 5. I'm going to take a peek at my PEMDAS, my order of operations, to see where I should start in this problem. The very first thing I'm going to look for is if I have anything within parentheses in a problem. Whenever I see something in parentheses, that means that that is the primary piece that I need to solve in this problem. That is the first piece of the puzzle to getting everything together. In this particular example, I don't have any parentheses, so I can move on to my next step, which would be looking for any exponents. Now, in this example, I have an exponent I need to solve, which is 3 squared, or 3 to the power of 2. As a reminder, an exponent means that I am multiplying my base by itself however many times the exponent tells me to do so. So in this case, my base is 3, my exponent is 2. So this is telling me that I need to multiply 3 2 times, or 3 times 3. So now my new problem looks like 4 plus 9 times 5. The next piece I'm going to look for is if I have any multiplication in my expression. In this case, I do. My multiplication expression within this is 9 times 5. So I'm going to solve that. I know that 9 times 5 equals 45. So the problem I am left with at this point is 4 plus 45. I then look to see if I have any division in this problem. I can see there's nothing that I am dividing. So I can move on to my next step, which would be to see if I have any addition to solve. In this case, my last operation in this particular expression is addition. So I am looking to do 4 plus 45, which is going to get me to an answer of 49. Let's look at another example, adding another element into it. In this case, I have the problem 6 squared minus 9 times 2. You'll notice, however, that I have 6 squared minus 9 inside parentheses. So, in following the order of operations, parentheses is the first thing that I look to. So I am going to solve whatever is within the parentheses first. I, however, see within my parentheses, I have an exponent to figure out. Again, as a reminder, this tells me that I need to multiply the base by itself 2 times. So what this expression is actually saying is 6 times 6. That's going to get me to an answer of 36 minus 9 times 2. Now, I still want to focus on what is inside those parentheses. So I need to figure out first what 36 minus 9 is. That gets me to an answer of 27 times 2. My next order that I need to follow is multiplication, which happens to be the last operation I have in this problem. And I can figure out that 27 times 2 equals 54. Let's take a peek at another unique example. I have 10 minus 3 plus 6, and within the parentheses I have 1 plus 2 squared. If I'm following the order of operations, and I'm following that please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, I know that the parentheses is the very first thing that I'm going to look to. So I need to solve what's within the parentheses first. So I'm going to solve 1 plus 2. It's important to note at this point, you will notice that there is no operation in front of the 6 and before the parentheses. When you see a problem set up like this means that it wants us to multiply 6 by whatever the value is within the parentheses. So I now have 10 minus 3 plus 6 times 3 squared. In PEMDAS, my next order of operation is to take care of my exponent, the e represented in there. And you'll recall that this is telling me to multiply 3 by itself 2 times. And I know that 3 times 3 equals 9. So now my problem has turned into 10 minus 3 plus 6 times 9. In following the order of operations, my next operation to solve for is multiplication. So I'm going to solve that 6 times 9. 6 times 9 equals 54. So now the problem that I have is 10 minus 3 plus 54. Now here is an interesting thing to know. When we only have addition or subtraction left, we can now solve the problem from left to right. Even though the order of operations, or PEMDAS, tells me that addition can be next, that AS in the end of the problem tells me that I can add or I can subtract, depending upon what comes first in my problem. If I have addition and subtraction left in this problem, I'm going to read the problem from left to right. So in this case, I'll first figure out what 10 minus 3 is, which is 7, plus 54, which equals 61. Let's take a look at another example using division and multiplication. You'll see this is a very similar problem. I have 10 divided by 2 times 6, and within the parentheses I have 1 plus 2 squared. The very first thing I'm going to follow when following that PEMDAS is whatever is within the parentheses. Again, I have no operation in front of here, but it is assumed and it is known if you have a number immediately outside those parentheses, you're going to multiply whatever it is you solve within the parentheses by that number. So my problem now looks like 10 divided by 2 times 6 times 3 squared. The next step in the order of operations, I've solved my parentheses. Now I'm going to see if there's any exponents. And there are. I have 3 squared. Now I figured out that 3 squared equals 9. So now my problem looks like this, which is 10 divided by 2 times 6 times 9. Much like addition and subtraction, when we only have multiplication or division left in a problem, I can now solve this problem from left to right. I do not have to start with the multiplication. I can start with multiplication or I can start with division, whichever one comes first in this case. In this particular example, I have 10 divided by 2 first. So I'm going to solve that piece of the problem first. 10 divided by 2 is 5. Now my problem looks like 5 times 6 times 9. I can now solve 5 times 6, which equals 30, times 9 is going to equal 270. Now, it is very important to remember this next little fact. You can multiply or divide first, and you can add or subtract first. You will follow your problem from left to right. If all you have left in your problem is division and multiplication, you can read that problem from left to right and solve across. If you only have addition or subtraction left, you can solve from left to right. Sometimes we're given complicated problems and we don't know exactly how to solve them. That's why we have the order of operations, and that's why we follow this PEMDAS. PEMDAS tells us how to properly solve a problem that has multiple operations within it. I want to thank you guys for tuning in to Crash Course number 2, and I hope that this has been a useful tool for you in refreshing and to remind you how the order of operations works. Stay tuned for more Crash Course videos coming to this site, and if you should have any other questions, please feel free to email me at any time. Thank you guys again, and happy mathing!